9 days officially until the Ivy League begins play with Cornell and Colgate. So with that, I want to say welcome to the 2023 Ivy League Men's Lacrosse Preseason Media Day. My name is Anish Shroff. I'll be your moderator. Appreciate everyone being here. Just so you guys know, this entire program will be on the Ivy's YouTube channel. Rachel Shermick can email you a recording if you need that as well. Her email is Rachel, RACHEL @ivyleague.com. Before we dive in, just a couple of important nuggets I just want to put out there. Last year, as everyone who covered the sport knows, the success of this league and these member institutions, that was the story in the sport of men's lacrosse. After going almost 2 years between actual games, the Ivy sends 6 teams to the NCAA tournament, 4 get to the quarterfinals, 2 get to championship weekend, and Cornell ended up playing on Memorial Day and nearly pulled off one of the great upsets we've seen. 15 All-Americans are back in the Ivy this year, so there's considerable staying power for this league as well. ESPN, once again, will be the exclusive home for the Ivy League in lacrosse. Games can be seen on ESPNU and ESPN Plus. If you're a lacrosse fan, highly recommend ESPN Plus as in addition to your streaming services this spring. And one of the cool things is this year's Ivy League tournament returns back to New York City. It'll be played at Columbia, great alumni hub for all the teams. So we'll have head coaches and 2 student athletes from each of the schools. I'll kind of get the discussion started, and then we'll open it up to questions from the media. Preseason poll, as you guys know, Cornell 1, Princeton 2, Yale 3, Penn 4, Harvard 5, Brown, and then Dartmouth. And we begin things off by welcoming in the Brown Bears. Their head coach is Mike Daly. They have attackman Devin McLean and midfielder Trevor Yaboa Cody on with us. Gentlemen, welcome. And Brown last season made it to the NCAA tournament, Ivy League regular season champions, hosted the Ivy League tournament in Providence. And Mike, I want to start big picture. When you look back at last year, what do you think led to the cumulative success of this league doing what it did?
Yeah, no, thanks, Anish. Really humbling to be here and be a part of, obviously, the league and coaching in the league. I think there's great coaching at every school, obviously great players at every school. I think you and I communicated last year a bunch of kind of chuckling, 2 years ago, hearing those, the Ivy League will never recover kind of rants. And I thought it was just a great testament to the coaches in the league, to the players in the league, of where we're at and the quality of lacrosse we're playing at.
This is for all 3 of you guys. What's been different about the lead up to this season versus last year? Mike, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, no real differences. We're really proud, that throughout COVID, we had our entire roster, on campus that year. We were the only Ivy League team to play a game, to play a Division I game, I should say. And so had a fairly normal fall last year, and this year was just kind of right back into that routine. And like I said, just awesome to be a part of.
What's your reaction when you look around the sport and, you got other teams that have 5th, 6th, 7th year guys, what you're up against in the Ivy, and even some of your elder classmen, your older guys, they've been robbed of a year or 2 of actual, playing real games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's heartbreaking for the guys. That's what it always was about. Certainly why I do what I do, where I get to do it. It's the guys and the kids and the relationships. And so that was heartbreaking to watch. It was heartbreaking for their parents and that. But thankfully at places like this, the bigger picture is always visible. Our guys, in all those classes have gone on to great things and great success. We've been lucky to have a few stay around for a ninth semester here at Brown, which is exciting always to have those guys and their experience back. And so it's kind of is what it is. And you just keep moving forward, making the best decisions you can make within the situation you're dealt.
Mike, going into fall ball this year with some new faces and you lost some returning firepower, what was the internal competition like? Can you describe what that was like in fall ball?
Yeah, I mean, it's I took over here in 2016. We still had all those early recruiting rules, which were crazy. We were recruiting 8th grade Devin McLean, which isn't that physical specimen sitting here today. So, it's really taken, this is a first spring where the roster is 100% guys that Coach Holm and I and Coach Sveck have recruited. So really feel that that's been visible in our team and success. And to your point, just the internal competition. I thought last year we were blessed to have a large senior class and some of those 5th year guys back, which allowed us to compete coming out of COVID with some experienced guys, and we were really fortunate for that. And all the while, like I said, we're continuing to build the depth of our roster from 1 to 51. So really feel that's evident. Really excited about, even last year, I think that was evident when Darian Cook, maybe our leader on offense, goes down in that Penn game, and Trevor Glavin, a junior, now senior, steps right in. And honestly, I don't know that I'd even say we missed a beat. We even probably got a little bit better. And I think that just showed a good part of our depth and a good part of who the guys in our program are and the level they're competing at.
Devin, this is for you. What do you feel you can do as a returning starter who proved himself last year? What can you do to help integrate this next wave of offensive talent?
Yeah, totally. I think we had a bunch of great leaders last year on the team. Really made it easy for me to find my success with, guys like Darian Cook, Ryan Ogevin, Reed Machete. Super easy for me to find spots and get success in some of those games. But, as much as I can pass on that to the younger guys, what I've learned, just work ethic, how can we get as many guys out there shooting as possible, as many guys in the film room, is all vital to our culture and success as a team.
Trevor, what's your favorite part of playing in a system like this that allows you the imaginative freedom that Coach gives you?
Yeah, being here, Coach gives me a lot of freedom when it comes to playing defense and running transition to the offense. It's definitely great. I love it, especially with my play style, going up and down, run and gun. It's great for a lot of two-way guys, and I just love the culture that Coach Daly has brought with it.
For you, this is a personal question, but we've seen what some of these guys have been doing with Pat Spencer in basketball, Jared Bernhardt, the Falcons. Any designs on going to football once lacrosse is done?
Still in the works of that, but don't have a definite answer for you right now, Anish.
This is for all three of you, and I want to get it from the players first. So Trevor and Devin, chime in first. Just describe your goalie, the people's goalie, Connor Terrio.
Great guy. Everyone calls him the people's goalie, but I feel like people don't give him the benefit of the doubt of the hard work that he puts in and all the training that he does behind the scenes. So,
Devin?
Yeah, totally echo that. Connor's got great work ethic. It's fun to call him the people's goalie from the outside, but not so fun when he's stopping your shots in practice. He's a guy who's always around the locker room, always smile on his face, doing whatever he can for the team. So he had a great season last year. It was a lot of fun. But I think he's excited to kind of show the work he put in this off season. Looking awesome. He's doing really well. So super pumped for him.
And Mike, what's the most unique part of Connor's game?
Yeah, before even that, Anish, I'd just like to add, and these guys are obviously living and eating and sleeping and around them more than I am. But I mean, Connor Theriot's been a 4.0 student here at Brown since he got here. Last year, he really took the initiative to bring players, all players on the team up with him academically. So he's just and he's so fun to be around. His dad's the coach at Keene State and a close friend of mine, and just a personality in and of himself. So, and Connor's mom, he's just a great reflection of his parents. And we're lucky to have him. Goalie wise, I mean, he competes. I mean, that's it. And everything that we look for in any position on our roster is that competition. But everything from his warm up with Coach Holm every day, they're competing on some level, and pretty heated, frankly. They're talking trash and getting into each other, and then what Connor does for the younger goalies in the program and the guys he's around, he's always mentoring and teaching and just trying to bring out the best in all his teammates. He's a pretty awesome dude to be around.
Offensively for you, how do you feel the pieces fit this year with again, so many new faces on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I don't honestly think there are too many new pieces. I mean, we got Griffin King, who's played a bunch. Jack Kelly toward the end of last year, started to take over some pretty dominant midfield runs and that. Then I think just another year with Trev here and playing a little bit of offense and defense, and certainly, like I said, the experience that Trevor Glavin got last year, second half of the year, and some young guys. Benny Locke's been doing a great job all fall. Logan Paff's been going now into be a 4-year player at spurts and just kind of working on and really done a great job with his consistency and building his game out. And like I said, we've been lucky to have some depth there, where first couple of years, a lot of freshmen, a lot of young guys were playing. Now it's kind of building that, consistency with each guy and then being ready to step in with some of those graduations that happen in every program, and every team's a little bit different, but we couldn't be more excited about the pieces we have.
Trevor and then Devin. Trevor first. What does leadership look like for you guys in the locker room this year?
Yeah, I feel like this year at first it stems from me and Devin, but I feel like us as a senior class as a whole has done a great job. We got a lot of new emerging faces, as Coach said. We got Logan Paff, Griffin King, and Oscar Hertz. I feel like those guys have really set the standard of our leadership and our culture as a team to a new standard, and it's looking great here on out.
Same question, Devin.
Yeah, totally. I think our class has been through a lot together, like Coach mentioned, just with COVID, our freshman year, our sophomore year. So being on campus that sophomore year was huge. Like, got to learn a lot from those older guys, spent some super valuable time together. But having a full team of what we call daily guys is huge for us. Everyone's bought into the program. Our class has been ready to lead, looking to take this program, continue on what the guys before us have done. So super excited, and we have a great senior class to do it.
All right, we have a media question. Kevin Brown from Inside Lacrosse. Kevin, are you good to go here?
Yeah, thanks, Anish. Guys, thanks for doing this and taking the time. This question's for Devin. Just Coach Daly has mentioned Trevor Glavin in his emergence coming for Cook last season. Just what have you seen from him this offseason and in the fall specifically? Is he ready to take that next step with the starting unit this year?
Yeah, totally. I think, first, Trevor's one of my best friends. Spent a lot of time with him. We shoot together all the time, talk lacrosse all the time. So both from New Jersey, both attackmen. It was nice coming in as freshmen. So we've always had a great relationship and kind of know what each other's strengths are. I watched Trevor all of high school. We've played together since like 4th, 5th grade. So it's fun to do. We have easy to be out there together. So Trevor did an awesome job last year, stepping into that role. And I think this year, coming in as a senior, he's, been shooting a lot, working on his dodging, and just we have the offense down together. So definitely pumped for it.
Kevin, thank you. We got a few more before we'll let you go here. For you guys, how did you leave last season? I'll start with the players and then get to coach. So Devin, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, I think we were upset, left hungry. An early exit from the tournament isn't what you want. The goal is a national championship. So that's what we look for in this program. And this program demands championships. That's what we're working for every single day and all the little things that we do. So, leaving the tournament early last year at home was upsetting. And we owe it to the guys who kind of brought us there last year to finish it off this year, in all the little things we do day to day.
Trevor?
Yeah, like Devin said, definitely a sour taste, losing on our home field with a crowd like that. I feel like this year it's a new team, so we're building every single day to get back and pursue more and different goals than that. So I feel with this new team, those are the goals that we need to strive for and just keep building off of that.
Coach?
Yeah, I think the guys touched on it. I think that environment for that Virginia game last year certainly was everything we're looking for. It's certainly everything we're grateful for, from our alum support to our campus support to the environment that is on this campus, and then kind of bittersweet, obviously, because our goal is, and for 45 minutes, we were right where we needed to be. We just needed to develop, as we were talking about, that consistency and put that final 15 together and but certainly a heck of a lot to build on, a heck of a tribute to our players to withstand those 2 years of COVID and get that program to that place. And we're pretty proud of that, but certainly hungry for more.
And one follow-up, you mentioned the crowds. I remember it was not just the Virginia game, it was the Ivy League semi against Penn. I mean, you guys brought some juice back to Providence. How special was it to see after, 2 years where you're largely not playing, and the games that were being played in those 2 years, nobody could go? How special was it to see your fan base rally the way they did at the end of last season?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the reason I'm here, frankly, is I've felt that from the first day I stepped on this campus. When I was brought here, clearly was able, luckily, to coach Larkin Kemp that first year and develop that relationship, and what he and the rest of the alums do to support our kids and support our program. Honestly, we simply and sincerely couldn't do what we do without the support of those guys in every way, from monetary to internships to jobs to showing up and at home games, away games. It's a pretty special community, and as I said, we're all grateful to be a part of it.
One last question, then we'll let you go. It's from Dan Orestia, New England Sports Journal. Dan?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us today and offer some thoughts about the season. For Devin and Trevor, you guys mentioned the end of last year and getting that taste out of your mouth. I think you look today and there's the Ivy preseason poll that has you guys at 6th in the Ivy League after a year like you had last year. Does that add to your motivation as well? Do you guys feel like seeing that is something where you have even more to prove beyond the way last year ended now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that encapsulates Brown, overlooked, underfunded, the armpit of the Ivy League. Will always be counted out, but that's not what we pay attention to. Being first or being 7th and 6th in the league isn't going to change the way we show up to practice. That's not what we're concerned about. So, yeah.
Yeah, to follow up what Devin said, I feel like with the polls, we're not really concerned with that. We just take it day by day, focus on opponent number 1, and just build off the days off that. So.
Dan, appreciate it. Mike Daly, Trevor Yabo, Cody, Devin McLean, thank you guys. Appreciate your time. Best of luck this season, and hope to see some more fun crowds in Providence this year.
Thank you, Nish.
Thank you, guys. Brown opens its
Thank
season
you.
against Quinnipiac Saturday, February 18th at 1 p.m. Again, thank you to the coaches and student athletes for joining us. Next up on this 2023 Ivy League Men's Lacrosse Media Day, we have last year's national runner-up, the Cornell Big Red. Their head coach, Connor Busick, will join us, along with their All-American defenseman, Gavin Adler, and goalie Chase Erlin. Connor, Gavin, Chase, welcome. Connor, Luke Kuechly's got a lot of stories about you, by the way.
Luke's the best.
Can't get away from you St. X guys. I worked with Jordan Cornett a few days ago, so here we are. But first off, congratulations on, just a heck of a season last year. I guess we'll pick it up there. What comes to mind when you flash back and you think about last year's championship game and maybe the championship run as a whole?
Yeah. The perseverance and the toughness of our group, is the first thing that comes to mind. We had our ups and downs throughout the season and dealt with some injuries and different types of adversity, but we had a group that had dealt with adversity before and overcome a lot and just had the mentality to get better every day and kind of peaked at the right time. And so was grateful for the leadership that we had on that team and obviously developed some studs throughout the year and excited to have that core group back to continue building this season.
I remember seeing John Tillman at the airport after the final, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Thank God that game did not go another 3 minutes." For you guys coming so close, what was the process of getting over a game like that at the end of the season?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm not sure you ever quite get over. It's on that stage. We were just proud of our effort. We were proud of our execution for large parts of that game, and certainly left a taste in our mouth that we're not satisfied. We don't really talk about outcomes too frequently in our program, and so for us, it was about getting back to work as soon as we let that sting a little bit, and that's where we are now. Not a whole lot has changed since that time. That we want to be at the top of the mountain, and we know we came pretty close, but you don't start pretty close. You start right back at the bottom, and so we're excited to start building towards hopefully getting something like that at the end of the year.
Gavin, Chase, same question for you guys. Coming so close, what was the process of getting over a game like that? What was that like? Gavin, you can start.
Yeah, I think Coach said it perfectly. It's not something you really ever get over. Just kind of starting fresh again, loving that process and what it produces. And, it's that mental torture that as an athlete and a competitor, you kind of just have to love it because it's what's driving us. It's what's driving this program for the next year, maybe 10 years, whatever it is, same thing from the years past, it's not something you ever get over, but you got to love starting fresh and starting with new guys and just loving that process. And again, what it produces.
Chase.
Yeah. I echo what Coach and Gav said. It's something that we'll always have and being so close to that ultimate goal at the end of the year, which, all teams are chasing. That's a little bit of extra fire and a little bit extra just to keep in the back of your mind. And, to think about and kind of motivate you even more throughout the off season and throughout the fall and throughout those times on your own. But it is important to kind of get back to, our program's beliefs of how we got there with, day to day and not worrying about the past because you can't go back and change it, and just getting back to, our program's roots and, how we got there with hard work each day. And, hopefully we do that and can get back to a good spot.
Connor, what have you told your team about now having expectations and the target on your back is much bigger than it was a year ago?
Sure. I think it's significantly different than, the unknowns that came into last season with. But for us, the motto doesn't change a whole lot. We talk about the inputs and the day to day and showing up with, controlling the controllables and bringing your best. And so certainly whether, we're having high expectations or no expectations at all, like we did last year, I think this group shows up with the right attitude and the right effort. And for us, that's been a staple of Cornell Lacrosse for as long as any of us can remember. And our hope is just to uphold that tradition day to day.
What did you learn about yourself as a head coach last year, going through that entire season?
I think myself and our staff learned a lot. I think we were dealing with some things that we didn't necessarily have a memory bank to fall back on and experience to fall back on. But again, I think this program and who we are is very deeply entrenched in our team and our staff. And again, a program that shaped me and how I operate. And so I think, when times got tough, when challenges arose, it was falling back to kind of the blueprint and falling back to what might be just words for some program. It's who we are. It's how we build young men. It's how I was built. And so falling back and just making sure that at the end of the day, you're doing things the right way. You're giving all of yourself and letting the outcome take care of itself.
Chase, the one game that jumps out, I know you had a little bit of a rough patch right late in the season. And then I remember the Princeton game might have been a rough third quarter. And then you stood on your head in the fourth quarter and your coach left you in there. When you look at a moment like that, how important was that in terms of when you see the trust in your coach? And did that have anything to do with, the way you played in the NCAA tournament where you were fantastic?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a bit at times, like you said, some rough patches and rough games where, I wasn't at my best. And, I think that's, a good experience for me as much as it wasn't great feeling going through it. It's something I can take with me now. And, because I'm sure we'll hit adversity throughout the season, for the team as a whole. And it's nice to kind of go through that, to keep that in my memory bank for those times coming up. And, I think it was, not even just the confidence from the coaching staff, but the team as well. Just still believing in me, still going out there having my back. And I think that kind of love that they showed me was just, had to look inward and just say, hey, just play for them and don't worry about too much else, but, getting to the next shot and, getting through the next game and just competing with my teammates who, every day we've kind of left it all out there on the practice field and in the weight room and really just trying to play for the team and the guys around me for sure.
Chase, what's it like having someone like Gavin, playing in front? I mean, I see the smile on your face.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Gav's obviously a very special talent, but he also does a great job of bringing everyone else up around him. We've had even last year, younger, older guys with, not a lot of game experience stepping in. And Gav does a great job mentoring them. And he's a great lacrosse mind. And I think that's one of his greatest tools besides his athletic ability to just help those younger guys kind of understand the slides, understand other teams' offenses, understand shots we like to give up and favorable matchups. And so, obviously his one-on-one defense is great, but I think his leadership on the defensive end is something that it's just awesome to have as a goalie.
Gavin, one of the sort of unsung heroes last year down the stretch seemed to be Jack Follows. A full season of playing with Jack, what will that mean to your defense?
Yeah, that's something I've really been looking forward to. Obviously, we got full month of practices last year, and then he kind of went down the scrimmage. And, just watching him develop over the past 2 years, we all couldn't be more excited about having him out there. I mean, he makes all of, as I speak for me and Chase as well, our lives easier. Our team defense is enhanced as well. We're able to slide, recover more efficiently. We're cohesive out there. We're able to communicate better. Just having a guy like him, trustworthy, and we have great chemistry with him. So really looking forward to seeing him make the next step.
Connor, I got a couple for you, then we're going to open this up to some media questions. CJ Kirst had a breakout season last year. I know iron sharpens iron, so him and Max make each other better. But what can we expect now after CJ's got a full year under his belt?
Yeah, he's just more comfortable out there. He's confident in our system and shows up with, again, the thing that we keep going back to, the attitude. Watching him and Gavin every day just butt heads and go after it. And he's as competitive and tough as they come. And so on both sides, it creates a great competition in whatever drill it is, whether it's an odd man drill, whether it's one-on-ones, whether it's, a scrimmage. We know that our leaders on the offensive side, and now CJ, as he's kind of stepping into one of those roles on the offensive side, that's creating some real competition in practice. And so excited about his maturation. His comfort is obvious out there as he gets a little older. And obviously, he's a heck of a ball player who cares a lot about his craft. So we're excited to see him take that next step this year.
And how do you replace somebody who, I always thought he was so much more than an off-ball guy, a John Piatelli?
It's hard. You don't just find 66 goals sitting in your locker room. And he did a lot for us, from the leadership end to the on-field end, to always being the guy that was willing to take the shot when the moment was the biggest. And, he's a guy we'll miss, and that's the way graduation works. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to find some other guys to fill in. But it's certainly not going to be a singular effort. It's not a 1-for-1 switch. We don't plug and play for a guy that did so much for us. But again, you talked about CJ and amongst others that are willing and ready to take that next step. And then, whoever ends up in that spot is going to do a great job. And again, bring us some of those intangibles, that the ground balls and the riding effort and some of the things that John did that weren't maybe stat sheet fillers, but were things that were intangibles to making us the team we wanted to be.
First question from the media, Chris Jastrzemski, collegelacrosse.net. Chris?
Hey guys, hey Anish. Thanks again for coming on today. This is for Gavin and Chase. You guys were freshmen in 2019, had a little cup of coffee playing in 2020 before the world shut down. And then fast forward to last year, and you guys are senior leaders. What did you guys learn as players and as humans yourselves while the world was shut down, while you guys didn't play for 2 years, to become now senior leaders last year, and how can you use that experience to this year?
Yeah, if you can start if you want.
Yeah, okay. So I think coming into last year, as I speak for myself here, I didn't really have much playing experience or even much experience in this program. I think maybe I got 1 full year under my belt, and it was definitely a weird time coming back in, but the appreciation for each other and playing was just so significant at the time. And it still drives us and still is. And going through that full year, getting playing experience, developing as a leader, and like you said, a senior leader, I mean, that's such a valuable characteristic to have under my belt and the rest of our class itself, and really just kind of falling back on last year and improving on it, like what kind of went right, what went wrong, how do we improve? How do we work harder? How do we work on this and that, and just falling back on that and going off of that and just keep building. So I think, like you said, that COVID year really, it made it an interesting time coming back, but the significance was so much higher, and we were able to, just take the next step in the leadership role.
Yeah, and I agree with Gav. Like, we always joke around too a little bit amongst our senior class of, where our kind of middle 2.5 years went of college. And I think what Gavin said at the beginning of just, everyone was missing each other and just wanting to be back. And I think that kind of foundation last year of just, hey, we're back together and we're going to work really hard in practice. We don't know what's going to happen, is a really cool kind of naive feeling we had of just like, all right, we're just going to go out there and play for each other, and see where the kind of the cards fall. So I think that's something too we can take in again this year is, last year's in the past, if we kind of bring that same mindset, every day kind of earning our rung on our ladder, so to speak, hopefully, and we believe that the things will fall into place at the end of the year.
Next question comes from the New England Lacrosse Journal and Kyle DeVitt. Kyle.
Coach, transfers aren't very common in the Ivy League, but you managed to bring in a guy with a lot of potential in Bennett Bladian from Bryant. How's he fit in with the team so far, and how do you see him fitting into your offense?
Yeah, he fits in the locker room super well. He's a guy that's hardworking, tough, hard nosed. He's a guy that always takes that extra step across the front of the goal and scored a ton of goals at Bryant doing so. And so, for him right now, it's still kind of a work in progress to get him up to speed. And our falls are pretty short. And so whether you're a transfer or whether you're a freshman, there's a lot to take in a short amount of time. So, as we get going in this spring and start practicing every day, I think he's going to start to settle in. But again, from a fit standpoint, he does a lot for us. He's a perfect fit within our locker room. And then on top of that, on the field, he's a guy that's going to compete for time on that righty tack spot. We talked about Johnny Piatelli earlier and a hole that we obviously have to fill. He's a guy that's proven he can do it at a high level. And so we're excited to see as he gets a little more comfortable within our system, exactly where he fits. But, he's a versatile athlete that shoots the ball incredibly well. So he's going to find a home somewhere.
Kevin Brown from Inside Lacrosse again, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Nish. Just a couple questions here. Just first for Gavin, just Coach Busick talked about CJ's added confidence and comfortability with this offense. Just how fun is that battle in practice for you? And just, have you noticed that benefit of the added confidence with CJ in the offseason, as well as guys like maybe Hugh and Aiden up in the midfield?
Yeah, I absolutely love the battle. Like Coach said, he's as competitive as a dude as they come. And, I kind of put myself in the same category. And, there's not a day that one of us is showing up and one of us isn't. Every day, like we're ready to go to war on that field. And, it's ultimately rising the standard of the program and, setting the example for younger guys. And, obviously he's a crazy competitor himself. And I do think he's ready to make that next jump. And he's shown it as a leader, obviously on the field as well. And like you said, Hugh and Aiden Blake as well. Excited to see those guys get going as they're also taking the next step in their game.
And just one more for Chase here. Just you speak about the Coach Busick mentioned just peaking at the right time. Just what were some of the aspects of helping you guys peak at the right time last season?
Yeah, I think I don't think there was a kind of a one pivotal moment. I think it was more of just going back to our culture as far as playing for each other and putting in the work every day. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be adversity. You might lose some games and there's going to be some rough patches, but it's kind of how you respond. It's believing in the locker room, the guys in the locker room, and our team sayings and the guys that have come before us. And when that adversity comes, it's all about kind of just resorting back to each other in the day to day. And I think it was a culmination of the season that got canceled and the season we didn't play and all the work everybody put in on their own. And then once we did get back together, pushing each other every day, I think that's ultimately kind of what helped us stand the test of time and have such a great run. Yeah.
Kevin, thank you. Just got a couple more for you guys. Connor, Aiden Blake was your top scoring midfielder before he went hurt. Kevin brought him up. What's the impact of having him back for a full season?
It's massive, both on the field and off the field. Again, a guy that's been here for a while and maturing into that senior leadership role. A guy that does it all for us on the field, is a heck of a competitor, is a heck of an athlete, and was really coming into his own as an offensive midfielder and a guy that could really get back in transition and play on wings. So it was a big loss for us initially, but I think, having to fill that void, having guys to step up in the middle of the season, 7 games in or whatever it was, and try to, mimic some of the things that he was starting to do and things that we were really leaning on him for was awesome. And so now that he's getting healthy and a lot of guys had to fill a similar role and step up, he's been instrumental to kind of get back in the mix. And certainly, like I said, in the process has brought everybody along with him.
Gavin, who is the toughest cover in the Ivy?
I would have to say the guy on my own roster, CJ. Or obviously Penn has Hadley. He's a very good player as well. And there's guys all around that are tough. I mean, every team's got great guys. I mean, those two stick out at the top, but I mean, it's not a knock on anybody.
And Connor, to wrap up here, really 2 things. One, Cornell being a New York school, how do you feel about the Ivy League tournament coming back to New York City, where I know Cornell's got a great alumni base?
Yeah, it's exciting. I think that has drawn a great crowd and really created a great atmosphere, especially that Friday night, is very cool in New York City with so many Ivy alums and so many Cornell alums. And so we had some great experiences playing there. And so we're excited to go back and again, bring it to the fans a little bit and make sure that they can kind of plan their weekend for that first weekend of May. So, we'll have obviously fans of the 4 teams competing, but also just lacrosse fans from that tri-state area where, again, the game is so big and certainly the Ivy League contingent is pretty large, lacrosse or non-lacrosse alums. So we're excited for the opportunity and the atmosphere. And again, just hoping to play well enough to be a part of it.
And the last thing, and this is big picture from a recruiting standpoint, what impact has the eligibility discrepancy between the Ivy and other conferences had on recruiting for you?
Yeah, I think it's created a bunch of different unintended consequences. And again, for us to not be able to deal with graduate transfers and graduate years and things of the like, obviously we had, a guy like John Donville that couldn't finish his career at Cornell. And certainly that stung a little bit. But, from the recruiting side, for us, it's remained relatively stable, knowing that we can't manage more than 4 years of eligibility with these guys. There's a potential for them to stretch a little bit and get their time's worth, but they can't play as a graduate student. Gives everybody a rather defined timeline. And so we're, for us, it's been status quo. Again, I know there's a lot of other programs outside the Ivy that have dealt with this in many different ways, but within the Ivy and specifically at Cornell, it hasn't changed a whole lot for us. We're continuing to recruit on the same, timeline that we had and, hopeful to keep some of these guys so that they can finish their eligibility in red.
Guys, a pleasure as always. Connor Busick, head coach for the Big Red, Gavin Adler, Chase Erlin. Good luck to you guys this season. We look forward to watching you guys continue to progress and build off of what was a special season last year. So thank you for joining us. Cornell will begin its season with an interstate battle against Albany, opening face-off noon, Saturday the 18th. Thank you for your time this afternoon. And once again, good luck. All right, next up, as we continue our men's Ivy League Lacrosse Media Day, the Dartmouth Big Green, head coach Brendan Callahan, and we have their face-off man, Mitchell Myers, joining us as well. Coach Callahan, Mitchell, appreciate you guys being on with us. Let's start with progress. In some ways, I would imagine it's hard to measure when you've got 6 teams in your league that make the tournament, but you guys pushed Cornell, you pushed Princeton, you were right there with Penn for most of the game. Where did you see progress last season from your squad?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely some of those games you mentioned, really competitive and felt like in a lot of ways we were right there. And I think it was seeing some of the youth for us, starting to grow up. We've been here recruiting for a while, and last year was the first team that had a chance where it was all guys that I've had a chance to bring in, and we had some young guys that were really starting to get it figured out and to push and to understand what it means to compete at such a high level. I think when we got here, we were RPI wise, maybe 73rd out of 75 at the time, and to be as high as receiving votes outside the top 20 in March there, you weren't going to step up from number 60 in the country and knock off a top 10. right? So we've had to sort of make incremental steps, and the next one is knocking off some of those guys in our own league.
Yeah, Mitchell, sort of along the same lines. When you see you guys kind of get close, and then you see what some of those teams end up doing, does that fuel the offseason from a confidence standpoint, saying, okay, we're starting to close the gap here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just seeing what we were able to do to, teams like Princeton and Cornell, and then, I guess flipping the coin, some of the games that were a bit more rough for us, such as Yale, it just kind of goes to show what we're capable of. And I think that, it kind of shows our potential, what we're capable of going into this next season. But yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of really just inspires a lot of confidence, but also kind of like galvanizes a lot of hunger, especially in the younger guys in this team. So definitely good for the team's optimism. I think it's going to be good this season.
Brendan, what qualifies as a successful season for you guys?
That's a great question, but I think, like I said, the next step is, we've had some success now out of conference, but for us, it would be the consistency. As Mitch said, I think you've seen what we can do when we're ready to play and at our best, but we haven't been able to do that every week. So I think it would be to show up and compete week in and week out at a top 20, top 15 level, and build those habits that it takes to do that. That some of the programs that you're talking to on this call today, they've been doing that for 20 years, right? And that's where we need to get to do it week in, week out, year in and year out. And that goes from recruiting, that goes from how we're working, how we're training, how we're building. So a successful season for us would be to attack the out of conference play and to get some of those close games to go our way in the Ivy League.
I got to ask you about the schedule. How do you navigate a schedule that has twice as many road games as home games?
Yeah, for us, we're always a little bit road heavy. Spring break, we like to get out of town, and we typically play 2 on the road in spring break. So for us, it'll always be, a little bit that way. But, for us, it's the mental toughness, right? It's we're doing it this week. Yesterday, we went on the road and scrimmaged on our first day of practice, and we're going to turn it around 2 days from now and do that again this weekend, with UMass, a good UMass team. So I think it's preparing for it in the middle of the season, in the early season here, building again those good habits and be ready to tackle it on the road. So you definitely have to have a play with a chip on your shoulder. That road warrior mentality has to come through for us. And then was something I wanted to do with the schedule, which would be to move. We have a condensed timeline here. If you look at our schedule, we have exams because we're on trimesters in the middle of Ivy League play right as it starts. So we've always had to play more midweek games. So I wanted to rearrange it where we had a few more weeks to get ready for Ivy League games. And in doing that for this year, we're a little light home wise, but that'll balance out with multi-year contracts with teams moving forward.
Mitch, when you go through the fall, what did you see in the fall that revealed the makeup of this year's team?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing for me was just a freshman class that's super hungry. I think we have a lot of key offensive players coming in that are going to make a huge impact on the field going down the road. As well as, a keystone 5th-year leader in Peter Rosati. I think he's been amazing, and just kind of providing a sense of leadership for this team, as well as just the general leadership squad. So very hopeful going into this season, given what we've seen in the fall, especially given our 2 pretty successful scrimmages versus Stony Brook and Manhattan. So we're very excited with what we've seen.
Coach, similar question for you. What was the most encouraging sign you saw in the fall?
Yeah. So like I said to you last year, when you're going through the league and you had so many 5th years back and you're watching, some of these teams that 19 seniors and 5th years playing for them, we were on the other end of the spectrum where we had 16, 17 freshmen and sophomores. So I think what's most encouraging for the fall is to see some of the things that we were knocking our head against the wall, trying to get figured out during the season last year. We had already had those things down when we got the fall ball. So I would say we're much further along at the same point today as we were a year ago. And again, to go out, as Mitch said, in our scrimmages and play, at least one team that was on our schedule from 2022 that didn't go our way to then have a good outing with against them in the fall, I think is a lot of encouragement there for our guys. So
I want to ask you about, Mitch, who you got on the call with you today. What makes him so special as a face-off man?
Yeah, I think first it's his work ethic and dedication to his craft. Look at him; he's one of the strongest guys on the team. The level of preparation and the film work. If you pull up the film numbers, he's consistently one of the top guys in there. So I think first is just his dedication to his body and to his craft. He's incredibly puts in a lot of work there. And then, I would call him a warrior, when you get in there and you're fighting during the games, and you have to have that mentality as a face-off guy. But then when he got to do it, last year for the first time since he's been on campus, through an entire Ivy League play and against some of the best face-off men in the country week in and week out, that takes a high level of mental toughness. So I think the things that you want to see physically, mentally from a guy in his position that's going to have to step up and play at a high level every week. Mitch has those things, and I think he's got a chance to be a really special player before his time is done.
Yeah, Mitchell, how did you stay ready? You basically go 2 years without playing in a game that counts to becoming first team All Ivy. How did you stay ready?
Yeah, I guess first and foremost, a lot of ice baths. A lot of recovery was really necessary after those games, but I can't take all the credit. I got to believe, Joe Hazelby and Brandon Ventarola had pretty unbelievable seasons as freshmen, on the wings for me, as well as, Coach Dugan, our face-off coach, was brought in my freshman year and has made like a pretty amazing impact on the face-off play in general. So, just having those guys in my ring, I think has been, one of the biggest difference makers for us there.
California kid, right? So what was your path to lacrosse?
Yeah, I guess, kind of got sick of playing baseball when I was in 4th grade. And, one of my friends was playing lacrosse and, gave me a stick and asked if I wanted to join him one time at lunch, and, kind of never really looked back since. Played water polo in high school and football all throughout grade school. And, lacrosse was definitely the one that I was most passionate about. So took that and kind of kept running and was fortunate enough to get here.
Brendan, we're sort of seeing this throughout the Ivy where, the maybe old school recruiting places that you went to find kids that has changed. You look at Princeton's roster, you look at Yale's roster, your roster. When you see the success of kids from Oregon and California, and now even parts of the South like Florida, how does that change in terms of, your map that you have when you're going out and finding talent?
Yeah, I think the challenge, Anish, is with a 3-person staff that's been able to go out and recruit. How do you cover that much territory? It's not football where you have a coach that's in charge of 4 or 5 states, that way. So, for us, it's certainly been putting more of a priority on, getting to those locations. But then when those teams come east and maybe let's say the summertime, moving them up the list of when you go and checked out, those club teams. And it used to be, let's make sure you hit the local regions first and then, go out and see the West Coast Stars or whatever those programs are. And now it's, they're right at the top of the list. And there's definitely no bias as far as, okay, well, he's out west or he's down south or he's not going to play as well as maybe somebody from Baltimore or Long Island. You definitely just look at everybody and put them on in the same spreadsheet and say, who do you think can get the job done for you? And I would say that's changed a lot in my time, last 15 years in coaching, that mindset. So I think it's a mindset shift, and then it's a priority shift. And then it's certainly, I can't thank our friends of lacrosse enough here at Dartmouth, giving us the resources to be able to go out and see those kids from different regions and Canada.
And to follow up, when did you start to really see that mindset shift? Because I even remember coaches 5 years ago would say, well, if we go get a kid from Florida or California, it's going to take them a couple of years to be ready. And now these kids are coming in and they're ready as freshmen.
Yeah, I would say it was probably, 2012, 13, you kind of had some of those first wave of those kids from other regions coming in and starting to develop and people say, oh, hey, this can really be a thing. And then, there's a story or two and you guys do a great job of covering it, of saying, hey, look at this kid. He came in, he's playing right away from this region. And I think as those stories and that became a storyline and people said, wow, it was national news that, hey, you can come in and do this. I think that was sort of in the 12, 13 range. And also you got to give a lot of credit to the youth coaches and some of the coaches in the country that have moved out to those regions and have been developing kids since they're, those guys. It took some guys from the early 2000s going out to California, going out to Florida and developing kids starting in 2nd and 3rd grade. So I'd be remiss if I didn't, give those guys credits for the work they're doing, because it starts in, with the skills and development. If you look at any hotbed that's ever started, it comes with coaching at the youngest age. Here's how you hold a stick. Here's how you throw a stick. So once some of those coaches got out to those regions and then had enough time to let those kids develop, I think that was, it was about a 12 or 15 year buildup from early 2000s when that started to, 12 or 13 or so.
Guys, we have a couple of questions here from Chris Jastrzemski, collegelacrosse.net. Chris?
Hey, Brendan. Hey, Mitchell. I got a question first for you, Brendan. I'm going to throw a few numbers your way. 4 wins, the most since 2015. You guys gave up 162 goals last year, the fewest since your first year, which is also the most wins since then. Scored 123 goals, which is the most since 2012. And you mentioned early in this call building consistency week after week. Since you came over to Dartmouth before the 2015 season, how have you and the coaching staff and the players that have gone through the program kind of laid the foundations down to build this consistency where you've had two, I mean, if you consider 2020 and 2022, two pretty good seasons considering the program wise, going 7-10 combined?
Yeah, I think that Chris, it really comes down to, Nick Saban was on a interview for the national championship when they weren't in it on ESPN, and he talked about what does it take to go back to back, what Georgia was trying to do. And he mentioned building habits. He talked about the habits that you build every day in practice, and the habits and how you work. That's how you do that, because it's not just about wanting to, because when you line up in the spring and the game starts, everybody wants to win, but have you built the habits throughout practice, throughout the year, that it's going to take to allow you to do that? And that's where they're at as a program. So for us, it was starting with building the habits. Hey, are we coming back in the spring ready to go? Have we worked during the summer, even though we have some great internships and some things that our guys that are doing? So are we doing the little things in our work and our habits and our day-to-day and how we practice, how we lift, how we train? We really had to go back to basics. And again, like you said, I would give credit to some of those guys in those first few years for really saying, yep, this is what we need to do, and tackling it. And then, helping us to get to the point that we're at now where, hey, it's guys are every day staying after practice, getting shooting. We're not having to knock them, saying, hey guys, we need more time from you. The guys want to show up every day. They want to get it done and they want to put the time in. So I think first it's shifting that culturally behind the scenes of doing the things that you need to do to be successful, on Saturdays in the spring.
And then Mitchell, for you, just discussing, you have a really good defender in Peter Rosati, just talk about his style of play, and do you personally think he could be a future PLO pro?
Yeah, I mean, Peter's definitely one of the most tenacious players I've ever had the privilege of playing with, and watching him go down last year was definitely one of the most difficult moments of the season. And especially him coming off of his freshman year as a honorable mention All Ivy player was pretty incredible. So he's made a tremendous impact. I think that one of the biggest things with him, though, is just the impact that he has on the team culture off the field. So, just getting all the freshmen in line, getting everybody to do kind of the extra work that it takes to be great in this league is sort of one of those intangible things that is going to drive this team forward. And, as for if he could play in the PLL, I absolutely see that as a possibility. I know he loves the game and something that he's definitely very passionate about. So yeah, I could definitely see that as a possibility. I think if he keeps working, it's, that's definitely in his wheelhouse.
Let's go back to Kyle Divitt from the New England Lacrosse Journal. Kyle.
Coach, last year you were able to compete by grinding out long possessions on offense and defense to keep your games close. And a big part of that was your goalkeeper making saves late in the clock and your faceoff unit playing really well while the rest of the team was battling in the middle of the field. Do you plan on implementing a similar style this spring, or are you going to be more free flowing on both sides?
Yeah, I mean, for us, one of the things we looked at in the offseason is all the numbers and we have to score some more goals, to get over that hump. It's great to play unbelievable defense and hold somebody that's a great offense to 7 or 8, but if you're scoring one less, it doesn't matter. So we're certainly looking for opportunities where we can have some more chances to get to that 12-13 goal a game region, because some of the offenses in our league are so good. You're not going to, if you hold somebody 4 goals under their average and they're scoring 16 a game, that's a really good day, but you still need to get into that 13-14 number. So, we certainly are still going to be, I'm a goalie and a defensive minded guy. So we're certainly still going to be play great defense and build it from the back end out, but we're going to open things up and look for opportunities to, make some plays throughout the game.
Couple more and then we'll wrap up here, guys. Brendan, to win an Ivy League game this year, where is that on the list of goals?
I think it's at the top. It's number one, for us. As I said, I think that's the next big step. And again, we've identified and we tried not to make it just a hopeful or wishful thing for us. So let's go back and look at the numbers and what are those exact things. And, really the big thing is for us during Ivy League play was, shooting and shooting percentage. So we've identified that and is something that, hey, let's not make this a wishful, let's make it mathematical for us. And the guys, I think, understand that and some of those numbers that we need to hit. Clear the ball a little bit better, pick up another ground ball. We need 3 or 4 more possessions or plays there that can put us over the top. And so as we came back on day one, that's the stuff that we focused on, all with that, that top goal in mind.
Yeah, Mitchell, the losing streak is what it is. I wonder how much do you guys talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the biggest things that we talk about as players. We definitely have a strong sense of pride in this team, but that is something that we have not really been able to show in these past couple of years. So, just taking what really the senior class, my freshman year, laid out as groundwork for what a successful culture should look like in conjunction with Coach Cal and the rest of the coaching staff's guidance, I think is gonna drive us even closer to that goal. But, like I mentioned earlier, we know what we're capable of. We just need to make it happen. Those extra 3 or 4 plays, extra 3 or 4 ground balls per game, it's really going to make the difference for us. But yeah, like I said, it's at the top of the list this year.
And the last thing, Coach, is I look at last year, you had Harvard, which was a very young team and was able to make some headway. Do you guys kind of look at that and say, okay, it is possible, to make some progress, even though you can be really young in this league?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the thing. When you look all around, you look at how our conference matches up nationally. You don't look at it from a youth standpoint and say, no, we can't do this. It's just, we need to do the things and the plays that you need to do, to make that progress. So that's really where we've put it. And I think when you see that and you live it, and for these guys, they know these kids that have come in the recruiting process, they're working with these guys in the summertime. I think for our league, sky's the limit. And I certainly think seeing our peers right around us doing that stuff inspires these guys to say, yeah, there's a lot of belief that can come from that.
Brendan Callahan, Mitchell Myers, we appreciate you guys. Best of luck this season. The Dartmouth team heads to Merrimack for its season opener Saturday, February 18th. Face-off is set for 1 p.m. in North Andover, Massachusetts. Appreciate your time again, and best of luck this season. Thank you.
Thanks, Anish. Go Big Green.
We move ahead from Dartmouth to Harvard. Then we'll bring in the Crimson. Their head coach is Jerry Byrne. The players that will join us: senior D-Midi Chase Yeager, senior defenseman Tommy Joyce. Good to talk to you as always. So Jerry, you'll like this first one. But besides coaching, what allowed such a young team to have the success that it did last year? Oh, we got you on mute. Still can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Jerry, you're muted. There you go. No, we still don't have Jerry. All right, you know what? Can we get Jerry on? Chase and Tommy, are you guys there? Can we hear you? Can we get a Oh, there you go. We got you now.
I promise I'm not 75 years old, really.
Come on. I mean, this is Harvard, Jerry.
It's actually Hartford.
Well, hey, good to have you. You guys were so young last year, and yet you had the success you did. I'm just curious, what do you feel allowed this team to have the success it did with so many freshmen and young guys playing big roles?
I think the simple answer is that, when our season got canceled in February of 2020, we didn't spend a lot of time mourning. And so from the next day forward, I think guys were focused on whenever the next opportunity was going to come. And so we had to wait a decent amount of time. And during that time, they weren't wearing black armbands and crying in their pillow. They were doing the work that they could do that day. And so I think it speaks to the kind of the character of, now seniors that are on our team, the guys I inherited when I got to Harvard, and their kind of leadership and mentorship of the younger guys that we brought in.
I'm looking at your roster and I'm going, yeah, you're older, but you're still pretty young. Do you still feel that about the makeup of this team where it's still heavily reliant on underclassmen going into the season?
I think any team has a mixture of guys. That's just the way kind of recruiting and graduation and new guys coming in. It's a little bit different because of the pandemic and some of the matriculation rules of Harvard. But yeah, no, I think our freshmen last year didn't play like 18 and 19-year-olds, and they had great belief and confidence in themselves to stay and play with anybody. And they verbalized that, and they proved it. I think we're going to have 5 or 6 other freshmen who play and contribute this year. But you can only do that if you have kind of leadership like Tommy and Chase and the seniors who have had a kind of quite of a roller coaster experience during their time here at Harvard. So I think, yes, we will kind of skew for a lot of freshmen and sophomores, but we're going to have a bunch of seniors who contribute as well.
Yeah, and let me ask the seniors, Chase, Tommy. Chase, love the hair. I'm glad you still got it. When you see all these young guys coming in, what do you feel your role is in terms of getting them acclimated and getting them used to the expectations that you guys have for this program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, as Coach Burns said, we're excited to see what the freshmen have to offer this year, and we have a lot of really talented guys coming in. And every year they come in with a unique set of skills that's going to immediately add to the program and bring something awesome that's going to help us to be even more successful than we were in previous years. So really, I think that our role as seniors, as people who have been around the team for a little bit longer, is really just teaching them how to operate at a highly performing academic institution like Harvard and a highly performing athletic institution simultaneously. So teaching them how to balance their work, teaching them how to be accountable. This class has been great. We really haven't had to do that much, and they're a really high performing group just right off the get-go. But I think that we try really hard to just set a high standard and demonstrate to them the level of expectation that Coach Burns has for us, and that we have as a team that's going to make us successful.
Tommy, same question.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky, we've been fortunate that these guys are so hungry, they're so great, they're so talented that we haven't had to step in a whole lot. But basically, I would agree with Chase in saying we're just trying to give them the opportunity they can to grow into themselves, because that's part of being a freshman in college, is figuring out what you're going to be all about, figuring out what you can offer to the team. And I think we're, like I said, really fortunate. Coach has done a great job picking great guys who will fit into the team super well and fit into the Harvard community, which isn't an easy thing to do, but we have a great group of guys, and I think they're all the potential to make a huge impact on the field this year.
For you guys, the players, and Chase, you can start here. Is there anything different about going into this season after actually having a full season under your belt last year versus what you had to go through the last couple of years?
I think that there definitely is. We had a young team last year, but even some of the guys who were, juniors and sophomores hadn't played a full season of lacrosse at the collegiate level. So there was definitely a little bit of, growing pains that comes with that, learning how to perform a full season, playing in intense games week after week. And I think that, going into this year as compared to last year, we're just considerably more prepared for that. We know what to expect. We know what we're getting into, and we know, how to have a hard game, bounce back, come back next week, and be ready for the next opponent as well. So I think that playing in a full season last year was awesome and was exactly what we, it went well. We performed well and we had some good wins, but there's a lot left for us to accomplish, and we know that there's still stuff that we have to do, and this season is just another opportunity to keep proving how high we can reach and how good we can be.
I got Tommy and Jerry too. I want to, same kind of deal. Is it different going into a season having the sample size of an actual season behind you?
I think so. I mean, it's definitely beneficial, but I think where we can't get caught up is, reading our own press clippings and trying to pat ourselves on the back, because everything that we did last year is last year. I know all these polls are coming out and ranking us from who knows what, but we can't really look at that right now. We're trying to focus on ourselves and make sure that we are able to produce the same or better product than we did last year, hopefully better. And yeah, but going through season last year, getting all these guys reps on the field, game situations is invaluable experience, and definitely something great to build upon.
Yeah, no, I think Tommy said it well. Listen, it's great to get recognized or people who have some understanding of the game, recognizing, the progress and the momentum that we have. But you also have to balance that with the fact that, as I say to our players, last year's team is gone. That team had its moment, had its run, had its progress, 25% graduate. And now this team is this team. It's, it's not built of the same people, but you hope it's built of the same values. And you also hope that you're building off of, the lessons of falling short and a self-awareness of your own weaknesses as a player and maybe as a teammate. So the only way you make that progress is if the returning players learn those lessons, they impart it onto the incoming guys, and that you're recruiting guys who know they're coming into something that's not fully formed yet. So I think all of those pieces are kind of part of the secret sauce of how you make progress as a program.
Yeah, and speaking of progress, what's the next step? Where do you want to see progress from last year to this year?
Obviously we want to win more. We want to make our league tournament. We were, frankly, if we give up one less goal against Penn, we're in the tournament. We win the Yale game, we win our league. So if you don't understand the lesson of how close and how narrow the margin is between being kind of almost guaranteed a home game if we win, if we don't hit the crossbar with a minute left in the game and it goes in, we're up by 2, not to relitigate that game, but you win that tournament, we're probably hosting the game and we're in the Ivy League tournament. So it helps remind you of how, the distance between, not greatness, but, super more progress versus kind of biting your nails on selection show eve. And then, if you guys don't get that message, then you have the wrong guys in your team and the wrong guys in your locker room. I know we have the right guys. I know we have the right team. So I don't think we have to, I don't hit the guys over the head with that because they know that I coach the micro elements of the game on and off the field.
First question is from Kyle DeVitt again, New England Lacrosse Journal.
Hey, Coach. A lot of teams build their out-of-conference schedule with some early opponents that, let's just say, they have a history of defeating. You guys didn't do that. You're opening the season against preseason #1 Virginia. Can you explain the reasoning behind playing them in your first game?
Well, I kind of knew Anish was going to be hosting this, and he loves Virginia, maybe not as much as he loves Harvard, but I think part of that is that when you're some of the seminal Mount Rushmore programs, and this is true of football and college basketball at some level, you get to set the terms of when you play, and it's kind of an unwritten rule or things that people don't like to talk about at parties around how schedules come together. So we wanted to ramp up our out-of-conference schedule. That was the weekend that they said that they could play, and why not find out where you fit in the scheme of things. So we're going down to Charlottesville. We'll have been practicing for a few weeks. It'll be our first game, but why not find out early? We know we're going to play a great league schedule. Every team in our league has the capability to make the NCAA tournament and beyond. So it's no different than that. And, I think we're going to learn a lot about how we're going to prepare for our league by playing, the #1 team in the country. So, you don't get into the tournament by playing cupcakes. And so we wanted to play the best schedule that we can. And what the other thing that people don't talk about at parties is that it's really hard for the Ivy League to play more than 12 games just because of the midweeks and our league schedule and how important that is. So, as people banter around strength of schedule and RPI and things like that, we can't start to the 3rd week of February. I'm not using that as a crutch, but we have to jam pack quality components into a narrower time period than others. And, that's just the way it is.
We got Dan Arestia, New England Lacrosse Journal. Dan.
Hey, thanks for doing this, guys, and for being available for us. This is for the players. Coach Byrne had mentioned sort of the thin margins, as it were, last year for you guys, and then biting your nails on Selection Sunday to find that you did get a spot in the tournament, and then shortly after that, plenty of scuttlebutt saying, "Well, should Harvard have gotten it? Should some other team have gotten it?" Do you guys carry forward a feeling of, what, we did earn that spot last year. We're good enough then. We're good enough now. And is there kind of a prove it that you belonged last year and you're going to prove it you belong this year feeling as you get ready to start the season?
No, I think it's a good question. And yes, there's definitely been a lot of people asking that of us. I think that, as Coach Burns said, we were inches away from a lot of really big wins last year, and we demonstrated just how strong our team can be. And we've heard the haters, we hear what has happened after the selection show last year, but we know as a team how good we are. We know we deserve to be there, and we're eager this year to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we deserve to be there in the tournament and competing for wins going deeper in that tournament this year. So yeah, I think that we're excited for the hate that we got last year. We're internalizing it, and we're ready to prove that that wasn't just a fluke. We're a strong team, and we deserve to be there.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of momentum going into this season, partly because last year was such a great year for Harvard, and a lot of people didn't even want us to make it as far as we did. So we're super amped up to make it further and show people that we're legit. That wasn't a fluke. We're here, and we're here to stay.
Chris Jastrzemski, collegelacrosse.net.
Hey guys, this is for Jerry. Looking at the where your guys are coming from hometown wise, I do this for all these teams this year. California leads with 8 guys from your roster. You have 8 guys from California from your roster. Just talk to me about, the impact of the sport growing in outside of these traditional hotbeds like, Massachusetts and New York and Pennsylvania, and how that might help you with, recruiting to, Texas and California and Oregon, all these up and coming locations.
Listen, when I was at Notre Dame, for 15 years, when you're in the middle of the country, both coasts and south and north are all kind of valid, kind of destinations for recruiting. So, I think I brought that kind of mentality with me to Harvard. But you also, when you're a coach, you can't have any sort of kind of proclivity for one area or another. I happen to be from Long Island. It's not like I wake up in the morning and I, eat a bacon, egg, and cheese and go to Jones Beach thinking about I got to recruit Long Island guys. We're just trying to find the best guys who can contribute to our program. Sometimes it skews one geography versus another, but you got to bring objectivity to recruiting. So the reason we have California guys on our team is because they're really good players and they had a crazy amount of interest in Harvard. I think the reasoning and the reason that that's happened is because I think some of the best young teachers of the game have moved out there for the weather and the professional opportunities. And as a result, we're not the only team in the country that has, anywhere from probably 3 to 10 California guys on their roster. So I think it speaks to the quality of the coaching that's going on out there, the quality of the club teams and the coaching that they get from those club teams, and the weather and likely, with basketball and football being such an important part of the California kind of culture, some of the decisions that are made by youth and high school coaches of, hey, that guy's not big enough, that guy's not fast enough yet, you should try another sport. I think lacrosse has benefited from maybe imperfect predictive ability by high school coaches in these other sports, and lacrosse has benefited from it, and we as a program has benefited as well.
Chris, thank you. A couple of personnel questions, Jerry. You had a really good goalie last year in Kyle Mullen. He's out of Ivy League eligibility. So what is the plan and goal for you guys this year?
We have 4 really talented goalies on our team right now. I feel that Christian Barnard has kind of separated himself from the pack in many ways. He kind of was an understudy to Kyle Mullen last year, and he came in our Yale game when Kyle tore his hamstring. And so, he's had a taste. He comes from a great program, Brunswick School in Connecticut. So I think Christian has, I wouldn't say he's solidified it, but he's moved into the pole position a little bit. But Adam Blind, who's a freshman, was one of the top ranked goalies in his class, has kind of fought through a bunch of injuries in high school and is kind of rounding into form. Jack Schlendorf and George Alvarez we're all competing every day. So we haven't named who our starter is going to be, but I think we have a bunch of great options in there, and they all bring something unique to the goalie position. And I think our clearing ability, which wasn't necessarily a strength last year, but is improving, I think that's going to be a huge part of how we ultimately decide. If they're all equal level saving ability, the goalie who can help us clear the best will be the person that we go with.
And then just a couple more. We saw what Sam King did as a freshman. What's the upside for him going forward?
I think, Sam got, by the end of the season, there wasn't a mystery of that he was kind of the quarterback of our offense, even though our offense was very, very democratic. Neil Hutchinson, who's our offensive coordinator, has done a tremendous job in, I think, building one of the great kind of team offenses in Division I lacrosse. Chase Yeager and Tommy and I are getting kind of tutored daily by the skill and the selflessness of our offense. And I think part of his growth has been the development of the other 5 guys who are going to be on the field with him, because when he got all the attention last year, not all the time did the other 5 guys either have the spacing or have the type of day that they could have had due to the attention that Sam is getting. I think from a development standpoint, I'd say Sam is quicker. I'd say he's thicker. I'd say he's stronger. I'd say he's tougher around GLE and turning the corner. And he's got great vision and great competitive instincts and motor. So I think the skill sets that he already had, he enhanced a little bit. The shortcomings, which were maybe some sort of strength and a little bit more quickness and toughness around getting close to the goal, he's really addressed. And I think Tommy and Chase can speak to his skill set and what he does in practice every day. So he's gotten better, which I think helps us as an overall team offense and will definitely prove itself in our games this year.
Yeah, Tommy, you see it up close. I mean, what's different about him from being a freshman to a sophomore?
I mean, he's a near impossible cover, I think. We battle almost every day, and it's hard to keep him in check. Like Coach said, he's gotten really strong. He's gotten really quick, but he's super fast. But I think what Coach maybe didn't emphasize enough was how smart he is on the field. He knows that he can get to a lot of spots that he wants to get to. He knows that he could probably score more often than he does, but what he does, elevating his teammates, making the right play, being unselfish, is awesome. I don't think you see that with all players who, have his talent. A lot of them maybe play a little more selfish, but Sam is incredible. He can do it all.
Chase, do you keep the hair throughout the season, or we're getting a haircut at some point?
I imagine this is going to be my calling card for the rest of my time here at Harvard. So I'm excited to, embrace it and stick with it as long as, Coach Byrne doesn't change his policies on it. So. And
then you got to go corporate once you graduate, right?
Yeah, exactly. One day, but not for now.
Guys, we appreciate it. Thank you. Jerry, Chase, Tommy, best of luck this year. Harvard will open up its 2023 season against Virginia, the preseason number 1, Saturday, February 18th, 4 p.m. Guys, again, thanks for taking the time and wish you all the best this year. All right, next up, as we continue our Ivy League men's lacrosse media days, we bring in the Yale Bulldogs. Handsome Dan will not be joining us, but we get handsome Andy Shea, Bryce DeMuth, and attackman Leo Johnson. Andy, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Yep. Yale last year, quarterfinalist, fell to eventual championship weekend team in Princeton. And Andy, I'll start with leadership because you've told me for many years you're a player-led team. It comes from within. And I remember you raved about the leader that Brian Tevlin was on your roster. When you lose a guy like that, where does leadership come on this roster going into this year?
Well, it starts with our captain, Bryce DeMuth, who's on the call right now. But, I think that for us, leadership isn't really any one guy. It's a construct that it's an expectation of every guy on the roster. And as they get older and put into positions where, their leadership is needed, we tend to fan that flame as best we can. And I think Brian was a natural, and I think you see that with what happened in Notre Dame. And I think that he and his classmates did a great job, and I think the juniors did a great job last year. And hopefully we continue to see more of the same.
I want to follow up with Bryce and Leo. When we talk about Yale, one of the things that always comes up is culture, and it's been kind of baked into who you guys are. How would you define the Yale lacrosse culture?
Yeah, it's, obviously it's something that's important to us, hard to define in one word. We care a lot about toughness and just coming out every day, doing our job. Not a lot to it, just focusing on what's in front of us and, what we have coming up. So all we're worried about is, our practice today and our scrimmage this weekend.
Yeah, to build off that, we're just we like to focus on our everyday process, getting better every day, and the things that we can control in the everyday, like Bryce said, our practice is today and tomorrow and scrimmage this weekend.
Andy, I remember last year you saying, hey, sometimes we're still trying to figure out who we are. And you go into the season last year, not having a full season the year before, figuring out how the pieces fit. How do you feel about the identity of the team going into this season versus going into last year?
It's a great question. Maybe it's me. Maybe I can't figure these things out, but I feel like we're always a work in progress, and I probably sell my guys short way more than I should. But maybe that also speaks to the fact that we're just trying to continue to develop. So, I see a lot of the same guys. We didn't graduate a large volume of guys. So I see a lot of the same guys. It feels like a continuation of last year's practices, I would say.
With Leo and Matt spearheading your attack, does that allow you to do some of the same things that you were able to do with Ben Reeves and Jackson Morrill?
It's in a lot of ways, yes. It's very different kind of components, skill set wise. I think that these guys, they're much different than those three, but they definitely, I feel like they fit each other maybe a little better, a little earlier in their respective careers.
Yeah, and Leo, I want to follow up with you there. The Yale teams that were going to championship weekend, it was Morrill, Reeves, Gaudette. With you, Matt, Chris Lyons. Describe the chemistry that the three of you have now forged.
We all pretty close on and off the field, and I think that helps us big time when we get into the games. And obviously, we like to spend a lot of time doing extra work after practice together, and I think that kind of allows us to kind of trust each other in the games and kind of have that blind trust in each other to know that each other's gonna be in the spot that we need to be.
Andy, with Matt in particular, how would you qualify his impact on your program?
He's been an explosive scorer since he got here, and it's really amazing what he's been able to accomplish with unbelievable amount of humility, probably humility to a fault at this point. We think he's one of the best players in the country, if not the best player. I thought he should have been a Tewaaraton finalist last year. He can do just about anything that an attackman needs to do. He can dodge, he can feed, he can finish, he can play inside, and now he's evolved into a great riding attackman too. So he really does everything. And like I said, I think that the next step for him is seeing what we see in him. So hopefully that's this year.
Bryce, let me talk defense a little bit. Let's go back to last year. What was your assessment of Yale's defense a year ago?
I mean, pretty honestly, it wasn't good enough. We have, a lot of work we try to do over the offseason and still a long way to go. We felt like, especially some games towards the end, our offense kind of bailed us out a little bit, and we never want to let that happen again. So kind of coming in, hopefully with a little bit of a chip on our shoulders and trying to make up for that.
I know Chris Fake is gone. So does that change what's on your plate defensively this year?
A little bit. He was obviously one of the best defensemen in the country. And I learned a lot from him, and not having him to play with is certainly strange, but Mike Alexander coming back still helps feel some continuity. Just trying to be as vocal as I can, as kind of the oldest guy on the defense, and, do what I can to help lead the group. But it's not going to come from one person. Like we already talked about, it's got to be everyone pitching in and everyone using their voice to help push us towards where we need to go.
Yeah, Andy, where do you see signs of growth and player progress defensively?
Well, we measure ourselves against the other side of the ball, and I think that was probably a pitfall last year, as we probably thought our defense was a little ahead of the offense last year. And once the season got rolling with a few games, that it kind of flipped a little bit. And I think we as coaches didn't do a good enough job of putting them in positions to compete to improve the right way. So I think that we're cognizant of that now, and we're trying to make sure that that's not that we don't see kind of a repeat of that. So I think that the practices have been, or the one practice at least, has been pretty interesting to see them match up against each other.
Bryce mentioned Michael Alexander. Andy, what kind of player can Michael be?
I mean, Mikey's great. He's can cover a wide range of guys. He can cover a fast guy, can cover a big guy. He's got a great stick. He's tough. He cares. And I think that his experience with Team USA is evident in how he's playing right now. He looks much improved from last year.
Bryce, for you guys, going into this year, I'm curious. So much sometimes we hear about the offseason chatter, and it stems from how you left last season. So how did you guys leave last season?
Certainly wasn't the result we want. Never want to end with a loss, certainly not to a team that we see so much. It was frustrating, as it usually is. And we just, every year, no matter what, just want to come back better and do everything we can, lifting in the summer, coming back, practicing in the fall, just keep pushing the envelope, get better, one step at a time, one day at a time.
Let's open up for some questions. Kevin Brown with Inside Lacrosse first.
Yeah, thanks, Nish. Just for Leo here, just how beneficial was the fall without having Matt there to kind of develop your game as the quarterback, another quarterback of this offense? And just how exciting is it to continue to grow with fellow classmates like Chris and Brad Sharp in the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different experience not having Matt there. I mean, he's a big part of our offense, and he's been super helpful for me in my time here so far, and helped me understand what it means to play Yale Lacrosse and make the right plays every time. And obviously not having him here was an interesting experience, but I feel like it helped me grow and helped me grow my leadership skills. But again, like, you can't understate how important he is for me and for the rest of the offense, and playing what it means to be Yale Lacrosse, play Yale Lacrosse.
Next question comes from Dan Arrest. Do you have one more, Kevin?
Just the second part of that, just how exciting is it to continue to develop and grow with your classmates like Chris and Brad up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. We're looking to build on what we did last year, but again, the focus is on the team and what we can do every day to overachieve at the end of the year and reach our ultimate goal. But again, it's super exciting.
Next question comes from Dan Arestia, New England Lacrosse Journal.
Hi, thanks everyone again for making some time for us today. This is for Coach Shea. You mentioned Michael Alexander as a player who got some Team USA experience. Another guy who did is Patrick Hackler. Where do you see Patrick kind of fitting into the team this spring? Do you see him as more of a purely defensive midfielder? Will he be involved on the offensive end? Will it be kind of in that Brian Tevlin-esque kind of role of playing both ends at times, or how do you see his use, shaking out this spring?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Just when we thought that, yeah, we would lean on him heavily defensively, he's doing things on the offensive side of the ball in practice that, we can't ignore. So, just the other day, I think Coach Williams said, what's my plan? We still don't know. So, I think probably the last option, more of a Brian Tevlin type role would probably be the most likely option right now. But I think most importantly, he's going to be on the field in critical situations. So, and I think that goes for all of our middies. I think we want to take defense a little more personally from a midfield perspective this year.
One other guy, Andy, I wanted to ask you about was Brad Sharp, who really impressed as a freshman. It sort of looked like he was just scratching the surface. How good can he be?
It remains to be seen. He's big and he's the fastest guy we got, and he's worked hard on his shooting. And I think that he's another one. I think the realization that he had when he started the season last year was that the sky is the limit. Not many kids start to get the pole a few games into their freshman year. So I think he's definitely taken some steps from last year. The big thing for him is to continue to improve and fulfill his potential, which I don't think we know what it is.
Bryce and Leo, you guys, you're out there with him in practice. What have you noticed in the off season? What have you noticed in the fall in terms of Brad taking that next step?
Honestly, the most I've noticed is not on the field, off the field in the weight room. He does some crazy things that blow all of our minds. He's a special athlete, and like Coach said, like the sky's the limit for him. So excited for him to hopefully realize that and see where he takes it.
Yeah, to build off that, I mean, just playing with him on the offense, he honestly commands a slide most times when he dodges, so it makes it pretty easy for the rest of the offense. So he takes a lot of pressure off of all of us in the offensive side of the ball for sure.
For you guys, Andy, I feel every time I'm at one of your practices, there's a guy who's, not able to crack the depth chart because you're so deep, and he's lighting it up. Who's the hidden gem that's coming out of nowhere this year that we're not talking about, but can be an impact player for you guys?
That's a great question. Usually come to practice later in the spring. So, I think a couple seniors, Kyle Zawadzki and Brady McDermott, have really impressed to start the fall or start the spring here. And we're excited to see them, take another step. I think that the guys that are in the senior class, played in the Final Four, I should say we're in the Final Four as freshmen, have had that experience and are excited to get hopefully back in that situation again. Start to realize that their opportunities, when you're a freshman in that moment, I think that you think it's just going to happen, every year, and you're delusional. A pandemic might happen. You might not be that good, or I think the guys, as they start to get to be seniors, see a little bit different way about how they carry themselves and a little more fear of finality to their careers. So I'm excited to see what comes of the games.
Couple more, Andy. One, Ivy League lacrosse tournament moving back to New York City this year. Given your proximity to New York, is that something that you guys like, having it in New York with a big alumni base there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I quite frankly like it. I just like being in it. The one I didn't like that much was when it was here. Felt like that was a little trickier with all our guys had to take their finals as opposed to delay them a little bit or maybe take them, they'd take a final in the hotel. So some guys had to take it during that time. They'd be showing up right before the game. For us, I think an opportunity to get on a bus and go somewhere is awesome. The traffic in New York is a little tricky, but it's an Ivy League venue. There's a ton of alums there. I know we get the A crew from ESPN. That's a big deal. For us, I think that I just really appreciate being in it. So I quite frankly, I don't care where it is as long as we qualify for it. That I think is a now more than ever, that's a huge accomplishment, and that's what we're hoping for.
And I know that, we've offlined about this before, but the sacrifices that this group collectively has made now to kind of be a couple of years removed from a pandemic and not playing, what perspective do you sort of have on, what, especially your older guys, what they've been through to kind of get to the point where they're at?
Yeah, I mean, you're reminded of it every day, and I just feel like I had this discussion with someone the other day about, how the Ivy League is now disadvantaged relative to these teams that can get all the transfers. And, I really couldn't care less about that. I think that every one of these kids deserves to play as many minutes as they possibly can, wherever it is, in whatever league it is. So, we have guys that are taking semesters off to play, extra time here, or what would be extra time here, I guess. So, I just feel for all these kids, every single kid that's gone through it, be it at the college level or high school level. I'd like for them to get, every minute of playing time or practice time that they possibly can. And like I said, we talk about it. I feel like we reference it every day. I'm getting a little tired of that too. I'd like to get a little more distance from it.
Well, Bryce, I'll give you the last word. The same kind of idea. What perspective do you have now in your final season, given, what your group has been through?
Well, I'm lucky. I actually took the fall off, so I'm lucky to have another spring next year. But living, a lot of my roommates, it is their final season, and guys that I came into Yale with, and so I still feel a little bit of that, because I know it'll feel very different next year, and not having those guys in my original class. And yeah, it's been strange. It's been a long ride. It still is, and obviously, like one of the things, like I say, best job we've ever had. So we love every second of it, all the ups and downs, and we're excited for another season of just battling through with each other, and hopefully getting some good results at the end.
Andy, Bryce, Leo, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yale heading to Villanova to open up the season. That is Sunday, February 19th. Thank you again for taking the time today. We wish the Yale Bulldogs best of luck. Two more teams to join us before we wrap here on Ivy League Lacrosse Media Day. Let's bring in the Princeton Tigers, national semifinalist a year ago, got all the way to championship weekend for the first time in a long time. Matt Madelon is their head coach, Alex Slusher and Bo Pedersen joining us as well. And Matt, that's a good jumping off point. What was the impact that you felt in the weeks, months that followed after getting Princeton back to that big stage?
It was incredible. Look, it was an incredible year for us. True testament to that 22 group and the many men that came before them. But just the outpouring of support, we kind of term it the long orange line. The love and the tradition for Princeton lacrosse is unrivaled. I mean, it's, I've been around many college programs, and this alumni group is remarkable. The fan support, the true love for the current team, it's just so special. So for those guys, I mean, this is a program that was built, Coach Tierney was here, was built on the back of championships. So there are always expectations here. When these young guys get recruited, they get recruited with those expectations, playing in Final Fours, and hoping to, have the opportunity to end the season in a pile. So it was, we were really lucky. It was awesome. The outpouring of support was wonderful. And these guys earned every bit of it.
Now, step two, how do you define, or what does it take, I guess, to sustain the success now?
That's something that we've been working on for years. That goes back to the Schreiber Sauer Courier days and the culture of extras and, how we work and the efficiency and how these guys operate. These Princeton guys are battle tested. They are some of the most impressive athletes in the country. So less about, the sustaining, that's our goal every year. I think the beauty of it for us is, start over every year. Our goal in-house is create the best team. Every year, work at it in the locker room, outside the locker room, whatever it takes to create the best team. So we're just excited to kind of start over, take this next chapter with this group.
One of the things that jumped out to me from this league last year was the leadership from within the teams. And you guys had 5 unbelievable senior captains. They're gone. They were on a Final Four team. So this year's team being different, where has leadership emerged on this year's squad?
leadership's critical. It's critical in all Ivy League institutions because of the limited time around the fall. When we return for our spring, those guys having to come in and kind of start their workouts on their own a little bit. So there is a good formula for leadership growth, but it's everything. I mean, those seniors last year, when young guys come into this program, we tell them, look at our seniors, look at our leaders. That's what Princeton lacrosse should look like. But we kind of stand on the back of stewardship. We really believe in it. The older guys taking care of the young guys. And that's everything from how to register for classes to how to operate efficiently on campus to how to turn yourself into the most high-level elite athlete you can in your short time here. So it's all about stewardship, and we are thrilled, the guys in our leadership role for this year.
Yeah, Alex, Bo, what does that message look like within the locker room?
I think one thing that's been really helpful for us is we have a really big senior class this year. We have 15 or 16 seniors. And so I think I remember as the first year, like I came in and like Coach Mad said, like I really looked to my seniors everywhere from registering for classes and figuring out how to not fail at Princeton to like how to approach a practice to how to play in man up, for example. And it was pretty easy. We had Michael Sowers and really great group of seniors that year. And I think, and Bo would probably agree with this, like we've just been trying to emulate that day in and day out. Like it's kind of hard to look too far ahead to June. You want to look at like practice by practice, not get too far ahead of yourselves. And I think the seniors have kind of just been trying to set an example as a whole for the rest of the team to follow. And we've had amazing buy-in so far.
Same question to you, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with what Slush said. And I think a super important part of our leadership and what we're doing here is kind of setting the team up where there's no hierarchy. Like we want freshmen calling out seniors in practice. We want sophomores telling juniors what to do. So while the seniors in like this great senior class is leaders, we kind of want leaders all across the field at all different positions, different ages. So that's something that's super important to us.
This is for both of you guys, again, the players. Utah and Oregon representing Princeton on Lacrosse Media Day. What does that say to you?
I mean, for me, obviously, it's a super cool opportunity to be one of only a couple guys that come out of Utah. It's awesome to represent Utah and then the whole West as well. I mean, just a great opportunity. Really lucky.
Alex?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the first lacrosse game I ever went to was Oregon State Championship in 2009. It was Peter Baum against OES, my high school, and OES actually won that year. And it's kind of crazy. Like he was the first really big lacrosse player to come from Oregon. And it's definitely grown a lot recently. But I think if you look across the country, there's more people from different states playing. Like we got people from Texas, Bo's from Utah, a lot of California. So I think it's really just a testament to the growth of the game. It's something that I am proud to be from Oregon. I think it's really cool that there's more and more people each year coming from these states.
Matt, it seems in the Ivy League specifically, I mean, you're seeing, especially compared to maybe 10 years ago, it's a motley crew in terms of being geographically diverse.
It really is. I mean, these guys did a great job answering the question, but they also have the pressure of representing from that area. And they've got a lot of young folks looking at these guys in terms of how they handle their business. Do they come back to their communities, which both these guys do, and give back to the game? And I know Bo's brother coached at his local high school, throughout the COVID year. So that stuff's really important for those guys that are from those nondescript areas. But really the success comes from, a lot of coaches from the East Coast moving out there and kind of starting these programs. So, we're pretty much geographically blind. We want the best players, we want the best people. We want the guys that kind of embody what we value in our program. So we really don't care where you're from if you play the game the right way.
Couple of personnel questions for you, and then we'll open it up to questions from the rest of the media. Defensively, losing a George Baum, losing an Eric Peters on the back end. Who do you turn to in those spots?
Those were such incredible guys and leaders and true warriors on game day. George Baum as an energy guy and an elite top cover guy. We've got some great young depth. Ben Finley and Colin Mulshine played a lot of minutes last year. Jacob Stabner played a lot of minutes. Kahal Roberts, but we've kind of shifted, moving Pace Billings down there. He's going to kind of anchor that unit and play alongside those guys. So that puts, big time cover guy down alongside some guys with a lot of experience, and then in goal, probably one of the best goalie battles I've ever experienced in my young coaching career. We've got Griffin Rackauer, a senior, Michael Gianfrancaro, a junior, who are, two of the best in the country. And then we've got Ryan Croddick, a new guy. So one of the strongest goalie rooms I've ever been around. And those guys are handling it well. They compete day in and day out. It's going to be a tough decision as a coaching staff, and we'll be prepared to play too if we need to. Those are two really talented young guys.
How would you assess the collective talent you have in the midfield?
It got to be one of our deepest years, and I think the experience from the Final Four will pay dividends in terms of learning from our mistakes, where, we didn't earn an opportunity to play in the Ivy League tournaments. We've got to kind of handle our business through that early middle stage of our season, where we can earn an opportunity. I mean, as a program, try to give our guys two chances to play in the NCAA tournament, whether it be through the Ivy League or through the NCAA tournament. So just got to work a little better, stay more focused throughout the year.
Bo, what sort of freedom do you have in your role as that two-way guy?
Definitely defensive focus, but definitely looking to push a little bit more in transition, working with Coach Mitch a little bit more with Slush and Poulter, a couple of the other attackmen, kind of work on some two-man games and stuff and to work in transition. But I mean, super excited to get a little bit more involved on the offensive end, but defense is a focus for sure.
Alex, Chris Brown was such a great facilitator. How has this attack unit gelled without him?
Yeah, I think, we return a lot of the guys from last year, but obviously number 6 is a big loss, and his impact was everywhere, both on the field and then especially off the field. Like I said, I look to Sowers often as a role model. 6, Chris Brown, he served as that role oftentimes last year, and I think we're really going to miss him as a facilitator, and I think we've kind of all been working for it, and that's a message every day in film that Coach Mitch is reiterating. It's probably not going to be one guy replacing him, but more of like a collective unit trying to replace that. And, we emphasize spinning the ball through X across the top, and I think it's just something we got to continue to focus and work on, because no one individually can replace someone like him, I think.
We have our first question. It's from Dan Arestia, New England Lacrosse Journal.
Hi, thanks everyone for taking some time to talk to us today. This is for Coach Badalon. Looking at the schedule, it was great to see the Syracuse Orange on the schedule for Princeton. So many just all-time great historic games played between these two programs. What does it mean to you and to you think the guys on the team to get this game back on the schedule and see Princeton and Syracuse playing again?
I think it means a lot. Our guys, obviously, they want to play the best teams in the country year in and year out. They want to play starting from 1 through 10, as many as they can, and so on. So Syracuse, look, for as long as we've looked back at the tradition of Princeton, those Final Four games, those championship games, it always comes down to Princeton and Syracuse butting heads. So for me as a young head coach of this program, knowing that game means so much to our alumni group, we've tried to work to get that game on the schedule for years. With a good friend, Coach March, going up there and being on staff, and with Coach Gate up there and his son Braden, who actually played for us at Princeton, it ended up being a great fit. So we're going to hope to keep that game for the next couple of years. That's a program that'll do some damage in the future, and as soon as this year. So we're excited for that game.
Well, let me ask you about the schedule, because you got that Maryland, Georgetown, Rutgers gauntlet like you did last year. Let's start with last year. What did that reveal about your team a year ago when you played those 3 teams in succession?
That was a really unique time of our season. We were dealing with some unintended adversity, whether it be around COVID and missing guys, or, our fearless leader, George Bond, ended up, not being able to dress 2 of those games. So, we had different lineups. I think coming out of that stretch, our team learned that, hey, it is a little bit of that kind of cliche next man up mentality, but we played that stretch with 3 very different lineups. So I think just guys understanding that, hey, when your name gets called, be ready. You've got the unintended circumstances of injury or COVID during that time were out of our control. So I think just as a group, as a staff and as a team, we were kind of saying, hey, look, we got a lot of pieces here. We were able to kind of navigate that stretch pretty well. We learned a lot about each other. And now let's kind of really fine tune it and get a group that can take a run at this thing. So just a learning experience.
Assuming good health and no absences of significance, you go through that stretch before you get into the meat of the Ivy League schedule. Is that sort of the best self-scouting that you can get playing against the best of the best?
I think so. Look, when you get to go against those defenses, when you have to defend those offenses, when you have to prepare for those coaching staffs, it really does set you up for the Ivy League. And I think that the Ivy League is home to some of the best coaches in college lacrosse. I think that, it's funny, we all recruit the same guys. So, we know these rosters really well, and there are incredibly deep rosters all across the league. So that's the goal, prepare our unit, give ourselves an opportunity to clip a couple big games early, maybe help ourselves in an NCAA standing later in it, but really just prepare ourselves for the Ivy League.
A question from Kevin Brown from Inside Lacrosse.
Yeah, Alex, Bo, you're two of the Princeton seniors that have put your guys' names in the transfer portal. Just how much is that hanging over your heads this season? Or can you balance it out to be more focused on this season and give it one last go with the Princeton program?
I know for me, my whole and entire focus is on this 23 Princeton team, and that's all my focus on, trying to take this team to the Memorial Day. So I think that's the same for Slush too. We're just focused on this team.
Yeah, would reiterate all Bo said. I think my experience, I'm going to die as a Princeton Lacrosse. Like, I'm black and orange till I die. And I think that I'm speaking for all of our seniors, I don't even think it's hanging over our heads in the slightest. I think everyone's pretty focused on February 1st to May 29th, which is Memorial Day. I think that's how it should be.
Kevin, do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you, guys.
Let's turn to Kyle DeVitt, New England Lacrosse Journal.
Coach, one of the best stories in lacrosse last year was Chad Palumbo overcoming a cancer diagnosis to help Nobles win the ISL title. He's now a freshman on your team. How does he fit in, given there's so much depth at the attack position?
Thanks for bringing that up. Chad's incredible. And what he went through was remarkable. We're happy he came out on the right side of it. He's still working towards it. So Chad's awesome, super talented young guy. But with the depth on offense this group has, he couldn't be in a better position to learn from guys like Alex Slusher, Coulter Mackesy, and that senior midfield crew. So he's in a really good spot. He'll find himself, filling in a little on attack, maybe running out of the box a little bit, but super talented young guy, just learning the systems up here on campus.
Any follow-up, Kyle?
Nope, I'm good.
Kyle's good. A couple of big picture things. Let me start. I haven't hit any coach on NIL, name, image, likeness. I'm wondering what impact, if any, has that had on lacrosse and recruiting at your level, Matt?
We haven't, look, it's involved. It's all across NCAA sports. And we have a handful of guys that are able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness on campus. They do a really good job of it. They kind of limit the distractions from their day-to-day life, but are able to, kind of benefit from that. So any way we can help the student athletes on campus benefit from that. As far as recruiting, shouldn't be too involved in recruiting. But for us, we really haven't had to cross that path yet. Princeton's such a special place, and it's such a special offer when that does come across the table. But if there's an opportunity to help a family, maybe financially, that may need help in terms of gaining access to this experience, I'm sure that there are creative ways to do that. But as a program, we really haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Alex, Bo, has that impacted you guys directly, tangentially in any way?
I'd say as someone that follows sports generally, like you read about it on Twitter and Instagram, but personally, kind of to reiterate some of the stuff that Coach Mad said, this experience is so amazing, and honestly, it demands a lot out of you in and of itself. And we have some guys that have taken advantage of it, but personally, I've just been mostly focused on playing as well as I can for the Tigers and doing as well as I can in school. But that being said, there are people taking advantage of it, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, same boat as Slush. I have not taken advantage of it, but it is awesome to see the guys who are crushing it with that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
The other component of that, Matt, is, the transfer portal. And how do you sort of compartmentalize playing in a league where you're not really going to have fifth and sixth and seventh year guys, but when you're playing non-conference and when you get into the NCAA tournament, you will play teams with those guys. And sometimes they could even be your guys who just don't have eligibility at Princeton, but can go play somewhere else. What impact does that have?
I kind of stand on, in the space where we want these guys to experience all of college. If they could play for Princeton, you can see the love for the orange and black that oozes out of these guys. We would explore all options and have to see if our guys can expand their time here. Unfortunately, due to the undergraduate circumstances, that opportunity doesn't present itself at Princeton. So therefore, like, look, college sports, high school, that was some of the most fond memories of my life. It's currently why I'm sitting in this chair. My friends, the impact, the lessons it's learned. So that's all we want for our guys. I mean, we recruited these young guys, and promised them an opportunity to work hard every day, compete for Ivy League championships, hopefully have the opportunity to play for a Final Four, and then graduate as a Princeton graduate, which is remarkable in itself. So all of our guys will do that. They will all have achieved some, and if not, most of those goals. And then and these are not transfers, these are graduate transfers. So they're moving on as graduates. So we're thrilled for them. They can kind of, expand their athletic careers, impact different teams and programs, find different roles. But I know when it shakes out, they would all much prefer to have finished in the orange and black.
Gentlemen, thank you. I can speak for, I know a lot of people in lacrosse. It was really cool to see Princeton back on the big stage last year. Sort of felt like you guys were back where you belonged. Congratulations on a great season a year ago, and best of luck going forward in 2023.
Thank you, Anish. Appreciate everything.
Thanks, guys. Princeton will open the season with 4 straight home games. It starts against Monmouth Saturday, February 18th. Again, Matt Madelon, Alex Slusher, Bo Pedersen joining us. We have one team left. It is the Ivy League tournament champions from a season ago, the Penn Quakers, a quarterfinalist. Their head coach is Mike Murphy. Their student athletes who will join us, midfielder Sam Handley and defenseman BJ Farrar. So let's bring in Sam, BJ, and Coach Murphy. Mike, good to talk to you again. Sam, BJ, good to see you guys.
How you doing?
Mike, I'll start here. I kind of feel like you guys have been sort of building toward a crescendo, and you've been really close. 2019 last year. Is championship weekend and getting there something that you guys openly talk about, given the experience, the talent, and frankly, how close you guys have been?
Hey, Anish, yes, to answer your question simply, we don't talk about it a whole lot, but, we had a couple of conversations in the fall with our captains, and then a conversation or two in the spring to kind of set the table and establish what our goal is or goals are. And winning the national championship is certainly part of that equation, but we, each day we try to stay more focused on things that will get us there and getting better, but we're not shying away from saying that either.
When you have the experience you do on this team, where does that show up in the off season?
The extra work, I would say, the number of times that I've walked by Franklin Field or gone through the weight room and the number of guys that have been doing extra work, I think they know that we can be very good if we put the time and work in and kind of own that process individually and collectively. So I think that extra work has, really kind of been a demonstration of that belief and that desire. So that's probably, to me, the most obvious demonstration of it.
Sam, BJ, how did you guys walk away from last season, that last game in Hofstra?
Banged up. Yeah, we were pretty hurt and injured, and definitely wasn't definitely weren't playing at our, full strength. And also pretty pissed too. And yeah.
Like Sammy said, definitely pretty upset. We didn't put our best foot forward that day, but it's tough to see those seniors leave the field after that, knowing that was a lot of those guys last game. So that kind of hit home the most, seeing our friends go through that, but it's fine. We're back for another opportunity at it. So
for you guys, is it fair to say there is, a real sense of unfinished business?
I don't know. I think every senior is different. We just try to one day at a time, never getting too low, never getting too high, and just focus on the thing right in front of us.
Really control the things that we can control.
So Sam, I know you've been through a lot, from, the spleen injury and not having a season in 2021. When you kind of look back, what do you feel has kept you going through this entire journey at Penn?
Definitely the team, program, coaches, everybody involved, as you alluded to, the guys obviously who took care of me in the hospital. I think for me personally, obviously my family is something that's very important to me. And I think too, just like as a player, just remembering where I come from and, what I represent too. There's a lot of great kids on the West Coast who, if I could be an inspiration or something to them, then that would be pretty cool too. So all the above.
That's been a theme today. In the Ivy, there's so many kids from the Pacific Northwest, from California. What's it like from your perspective to see, especially at Oregon, so many guys from Oregon succeed the way they've succeeded at this level?
It's awesome. Yeah. Like when I first got to Penn and people are like, you're from Oregon, like, what the heck? And now it's kind of become normalized that Oregon is almost a hotbed. And definitely I think college coaches should, take notice and put Oregon on the map. So it's a pretty cool story for all the guys from Oregon who have cool positions in their teams.
Mike, for you, what's been the most rewarding part of coaching someone like Sam these last few years?
Yeah, probably just the growth. I don't think he really knew how good he could be, and he and I never talked about this. And just when he got here, the first day was obvious that he was talented, but we didn't have him on the first midfield line for a game or two, and then he kind of kept stepping up to the challenge, and even going through all the stuff that he went through, and then feel like he needed to live up to some of those expectations last year, and to do that, and then to come back here and choose to be at Penn again for a fifth year, and to be at the place that he's at now, both as a player, because he's gotten better physically, but I think he's also gotten better in terms of the emotional maturity and kind of connection and things like that. So the whole thing, and thinking about why he came here when he decided to come here as basically a ninth grader. And I think, thankfully he was pretty emotionally mature at that point too. And I think he picked the right place for the right reasons, even though he might not have been technically old enough to make that decision. And here we are, I don't know, 9 years later, maybe. And to know that he came to the right place for the right reasons is having the experience he's having, I think is terrific.
Yeah, Mike, for you first, and then I want to hear what Sam and BJ have to say about this too. One of the things that I've noticed, Sam, because of your size and the way you play, like you've got this big target on your back, and it seems like other teams try to get a rise out of trying to make a play on you. And you could see, it reminded me really with Miles Jones. I saw it too, where if somebody was able to make a play, the other bench would erupt. As a coach, is there any message that you can send when, there, I would imagine there's a certain pressure that comes with that.
Yeah, I mean, Sam gets it. Like, I don't need to talk to him about that stuff. He very much understands that if he actually dodges and doesn't get a shot off, the other team actually starts getting excited. But we don't really talk about that. He gets it emotionally and otherwise. He generally knows what the right play is too. So it's really more about kind of subtle reminders and things like that, trying to keep him on task when things get heated. So it's he does have a target on his back, but I think he very much understands, what that means. And it opens other people up, whether it's the guy in the inside or guy on the backside. I think Sam is unique, not because he's 6'5", but because he actually has the ability to throw the ball to the open man under pressure in one pass. And he does that stuff pretty consistently. So.
Yeah, Sam, how do you deal with that?
I think, some teams like to try to tee off on me, but whatever. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
What do you see, BJ?
I just try to, if he comes over to the sideline and things don't happen like the way he wants out there, you just make sure you give him some words of encouragement out there. We make sure we do our part as a team to keep encouraging our teammates and Sam throughout the game to make sure he, staying level headed and things like that. Those things aren't getting to him.
What are your battles like in practice?
They're great. They're a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Mike, what do you see? You're laughing.
It's very fun to watch. BJ's actually very strong for his size, so Sam doesn't just run him over, but he also, as freshmen, they kind of got caught up in that sometimes, but now neither one of them does. And so when they do get matched up, they don't overthink it. And it's just part of the offense against the defense, and they understand that and do it the right way. So, but it's fun just because they're such good friends. They're always like, chirping to each other and things like that. It's just been kind of a fun and enjoyable to watch those two evolve, both, individually as well as leaders on their two respective units.
All right, let's open it up to some questions. Let's start first. I hope I'm saying it right, Glenn Papazian, PhillyCollegeSports.com.
Thank you. And yes, you said that correctly. Just a question for Sam and the players. Sam, you've received a lot of preseason accolades so far. Congratulations on that. And how much does that fuel your desire to fulfill those, not only for you, but the team as well?
Well, I think I'll start this off by saying it kind of feels like people forget that in 2019, I was also received this much attention, and now we're, 4 years past. And if anything, I feel like I've just learned to, let me rephrase. In 2019, received a lot of attention. 2 years go by, don't hear a thing again. And then in 2022, start getting some attention again. I think, just that lesson taught me that, as quick as the fame and accolades can come, just as quickly they can go. So it's not really something that I think about a whole lot. And, all those accolades too are it's a team game. Like if I don't have great teammates around me, and if we're not a great team, then none of those, accolades, would have come my way. So it's not really something I think about. It's more about, just by virtue of being a great teammate and being on a great team.
And this question, it's kind of a Philly thing for both of you. There's a lot of excitement going around in town right now between what the Phillies had accomplished and the Eagles are accomplishing. Do you feel that excitement on campus too?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was just telling BJ, who's a diehard Ravens fan, and I didn't grow up with the team, spent the last 4 years trying to pick a team, but after all the excitement, and I think I might be an Eagles fan. But yeah, it is exciting. Go Philly.
Go Philly.
Speaking of Eagles fans, we have Chris Jastrzemski from collegelacrosse.net.
What a fine introduction, Anish. Go Birds. This is for Sam, I guess now an Eagles fan. First game this year, it's going to be a little bit special. You're playing against Georgetown, and you're playing against one of your, I guess, really good buds in Tucker Dordovic, who's also from the state. You guys played at high school together. Final year for both of you guys. What's it mean personally for you to play against Tucker? And, just tell me a little bit more about Tucker yourself from your standpoint. I went to Cuse with him for a year. He's a great guy, but you know a lot more than I do.
Yeah, well, technically this doesn't have to be my last year, but last year at Penn. Yeah, I mean, that's someone who we grew up playing lacrosse together. He's basically my neighbor. We've been we played lacrosse from third grade through high school, and it is going to be really special to be on that field with him, just to think about how far we both come in our individual journeys and how it all kind of leads to this big crescendo on the highest stage possible. It's really special. Our longtime I'd say trainer, who's basically become like second family to us, is flying out from Oregon. So that's just going to be really special for all of us to be a part of. And yes, Tucker is a beast, and it'll be fun to go against him unless he does something cool. So,
Prince, any follow-ups?
I'm good, Anish.
Okay, let's turn it over to Dan Arestio.
Thanks, Anish. Thanks, guys, for making the time for us today. Question for Coach Murphy. Coach, last year that first midfield group of Sam and Gabe Fury and James Shipley did a lot of heavy lifting for you guys. Has anyone emerged for you either late last year that you liked or in the fall so far here to maybe build a little more depth through the midfield for you?
Yeah, Dan, how you doing? I feel like we've got a lot of depth. A couple guys showed glimpses of it last year. Chris Kinnett had a very nice goal in that quarterfinal game and just started, to develop a little bit more confidence, and a guy named Casey Mulligan are two guys. Another senior, Luke DiJacobi, is a guy that's going to give us a lot of valuable minutes at both ends of the field. So we actually feel like our midfield depth is maybe as much a strength as anything that we have. We've got some guys that can play attack or midfield, like Robert Shane, who I think is going to be very impactful at the offensive end. So, to be honest, I think we'll be a better team if Sam and Gabe play a little bit less. I think they'll both have a greater impact if we can spell them a little bit for the key moments of the game and perhaps key moments of the season.
Dan, thank you. We've got Kyle DeVitt, New England Lacrosse Journal.
Coach, you're now my favorite Mike Murphy in lacrosse, which I think you already knew. If your 2023 schedule were an album, it would be all bangers and no skips. What are some of the ways that a strong schedule helps you prepare for a potential title run in 2023?
Precisely that. Honestly, that's a good way to put it. Like we don't take games off. Like we want to be consistently very good. Like our vision statement is consistent, comprehensive excellence. And I think if you take days off, you take weeks off, at some point that will catch up to you. So philosophically, that's kind of the approach. And then obviously it pays off in terms of RPI and selection process and seeding if we can get ourselves to the month of May. And truthfully, the biggest reason is just more fun. Playing good teams is fun. We scrimmaged Delaware yesterday. They're good, getting ready for that game and scrimmage, and that was fun. The same thing from Georgetown all the way through the Ivy League and Albany. Like it's something to look forward to every week. You finish a game on Saturday, you start watching the film and you turn the page to the next game. You never really let your guard down when you have a schedule like this. And that's the way we want to play. That's the way we want to be, throughout the season and throughout each game. So.
Kyle, thank you. Back to Glenn, who has another follow.
Yeah, for Coach, and good segue. When you look at your schedule, it's the usual non-conference schedule is very challenging, and you're also keeping a local presence as well, with Villanova and St. Joseph's. And how important is it to have that local presence here as part of your schedule?
I think it's very important. From a functional standpoint, playing St. Joe's on a Wednesday is easier than playing High Point, in terms of travel and whatnot, or somebody else non-conference. But I think the bigger thing is we recruit locally, and we take pride in lacrosse in the area, at the collegiate level, the high school level, in the wings and everything else. And we felt like, and this was someone else's idea a long time ago, and it took us a while to get it off the ground, but just trying to build an event in the spring that gets people in Philadelphia excited about lacrosse, I think is meaningful. And so we call it the Philly Four with Drexel and St. Joe's and Villanova. So for us, we very much look forward to that weekend, and the Villanova game in particular is important to us because we now play for something called the Farrell Cup, and James Farrell was our captain in 2018, and he passed away tragically in a car accident, and his brother was a student at Villanova. So the local part of that matters, but there's also a little bit something else that's meaningful to us in that Villanova game.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
One more from Chris Jastrzemski.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to bring up the return of the Philly Four after a couple of years of it being away, and just when this event started, it was kind of a celebration of the sport in the area. There's a lot of teams in Maryland, they don't do this kind of thing. A lot of teams in New York State, they don't do this kind of thing. How important is it to have this event to support the game in the Philadelphia area? I know there's events like the Katie Sampson tournament, and I know Haverford School had an event for a while in the early part of the last decade, but how important is it to have the best teams in the area kind of compete on a weekend and just to to grow the sport in the area?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I do appreciate it. Ironically, very ironically, this thing was Katie Sampson's father's idea. His name's Peter Sampson. He's actually a Penn alum, played lacrosse and hockey here, passed away somewhat tragically as well a few years ago. And so it was his idea. And and to have this thing, become what it's become, I think is terrific. And to be honest with you, we've actually had a vision for it that's bigger than what it is currently. We would like to see it become something really big where, there's R2 games, maybe a Division III game and a high school game or two. And it becomes more of a festival type of atmosphere like goes on at Radnor High School for the Katie Sampson Festival. So hopefully we're still in the early stages of this and we can grow it into something pretty significant in support of lacrosse in the Philadelphia area.
As a quick follow-up, I know you mentioned the D3 in the high school, but any talks of having the women involved, since all 6 of those Philly schools do have Division I women's teams?
Yeah, potentially. It's just a bandwidth issue. We had the same question in the Final Four. And in the Final Four, it's challenging because there's one field and we already have 3 games going on and, and things like that. I think if we had a big enough facility or 2 facilities that were nearby each other, I think it would be great, but I think in the short term, if we can expand it from the R4 teams to maybe, Cabrini plays Haverford, that would be a good first step, and then get it into the high schools and then expand to the women. So that would be terrific.
Chris, thank you. Just a couple more and we'll let you go, Mike. One, and I've asked a number of coaches this, how do you feel about the Ivy League tournament coming back to New York City?
I think it's exciting, it's a neutral site, predetermined. We've had some success in Columbia. We've had, some bad performances there too, honestly. So we've seen both sides of it. I think it's an exciting thing because so many of us have so many of our alumni up there. Hopefully the attendance will continue to grow. So we'll see how this one plays out. We just want to make it there, to be honest with you. What happens, with the crowd and the other stuff around that is not as much a concern.
And the final thing, and this is BJ and Sam, the schedule was brought up. You guys play a heavyweight schedule. I mean, pretty much every year since Mike Murphy's been the coach. I'm wondering how much of that is the allure of playing at Penn, where you're playing a heavyweight pretty much every week.
Freshman year was kind of very eye-opening when we got to, Maryland, Duke, Penn State as the first 3. But I mean, I don't know. I would say that it's kind of just become a part of our lifestyle now. It's like there's no way around it. We can't avoid it. So we might as well go put our best foot forward when we go play those teams. And they're great teams. They're going to bring the best out of them. They'll bring the best out of us, which is really nice. So
it's cool.
That's it. All right, guys. Good luck to you. Best of luck this season. I know you guys got a big game to open the season against Georgetown in the nation's capital, February 18th. Mike, Sam, BJ, take care. And that will conclude the 2023 Men's Lacrosse Ivy League Media Day. You can find the archived copy of this recording on the Ivy League's YouTube account, and also Rachel Shermick will email you a copy for all the media members if you're looking to get your own copy, rachel@ivyleague.com. That does it for us. Everybody have a good day, and lacrosse has begun. Zach, Rachel, we good?